No, you're not seeing things, ladies and gentlemen. We are back here for round two. We are in prime time on the brightest here on Sportswire Radio. And if you thought what the first Cameron had to say, quote unquote, a first Cam, wait until you see what the second one says. And could the second Cam be a world champion joining the first one? Well, if he has his way coming up here at Saturday Night Riot for Resurrection Pro Wrestling, he could very well be the next Resurrection Wrestling heavyweight champion of the world and achieve something that has long eluded him. And talk about a man that maybe, well, he created in a way, a man that he made. And maybe did our guest tonight in many ways be responsible for the success of Resurrection Wrestling? He's going to tell us, and plus he's going to tell us why he's on a redemption tour here, because he feels he's got a lot to say. And if you thought the first time on Sportswire Radio that our guest tonight had a lot to say, wait until tonight, because he is the center of attention, especially if you saw Resurrection Wrestling's Elevation show that took place earlier this week. He was the one that everybody was talking about. And I have no doubt that our champion for now, Dustin Alexander, has certainly got a lot to think about when it comes to this guest. This guest has got a lot to say. It has been quite a while since he has last been on this platform. But after all, we're in prime time, as I stated, on the brightest lights, the biggest stage, where after all wrestling matters. And it looks like our guest here, and again, we usually do a regular show on Friday nights. We usually get guys to talk about, well, SmackDown, Raw, the world of sports, but we certainly put that to the side because we've got a potential world champion on our hands. And I might even have a couple of announcements on behalf of Resurrection for tomorrow, and maybe even a few things for this guest that I want to tell him, and we'll see how he reacts to it. But until then, ladies and gentlemen, it has been such a while since our last guest has been on this platform, but it's time to give him that introduction that so many of his peers, so many of his colleagues, everybody else that's watching, after all, he was watching the first show with the first Cam here, so let's give him that introduction and just maybe a prelude to that championship-like introduction, because I have no doubt that they won't give him that championship-like introduction at Resurrection Wrestling. So why don't I do the honors and give it to him? Because like I said, we are here on a Friday night, and there is only one platform like Sportswire Radio when it comes to backyard and underground wrestling. So let's get right to it. So with that, without further ado, here on the Sports Report, number one global sports show, the man that is on the Redemption Tour in Resurrection Wrestling. Simply put, his name is Cameron. Boy, I feel like tonight he's going to be on a rusty cage. Here you go, my friend. How are you?
Man, doing better now that I heard that. Always.
You know, I gotta say, I know we'll get a lot into you, but I want to say this because I think I say it every time. And I am not trying to be arrogant on this. I am not trying to be cocky, but there is no other platform like this one. And I want to say it out there. There are podcasters and there are wankers that do their own show and they want to hear themselves talk and pontificate. But when you come on here, there is only one show that is all wrestling matters. The only platform that truly says support backyard wrestling. The only platform that gives you, it's almost like my introductions, like when Tom Brady used to step on the field for the Patriots, Michael Jordan in basketball, or Kobe Bryant in basketball, or, baseball when you had Barry Bonds hit a baseball, or, you talk about music. Right now, everybody talks about Taylor Swift, or, Michael Jackson once upon a time with the glove, Hammer with the baggy pants. I mean, you want to talk about guitar, Eddie Van Halen, Randy Rhoads, you name somebody, listen, the greatest actors out there. You talk about everybody's watching Mad Max Furiosa, Chris Helmsworth, Keanu Reeves, John Wick. I mean, we can keep going. Tom Cruise, Mission Impossible. But that's what you get here on Sportswire Radio. You get those introductions that you're going to get nowhere else, and you're going to get no other information, no other way to network with your fellow yarders and undergrounders like here on this platform. So I just want to put that out there. But certainly to quote Chris Cornell of Soundgarden, the late, great Chris Cornell, I feel like you're going to be on a rusty cage, and I certainly want to make sure that you are no bad motor finger, and you are definitely going to be no super unknown tonight, to quote Soundgarden. But obviously a lot is on your mind, and how are you tonight?
I'm doing pretty good. Obviously a lot happier now that I took out Dustin Alexander for the time being.
You took him out, but there's something else you want from him.
Oh, for sure there's something else I want from him, and I'm going to get it from him for Saturday Night Riot.
We're going to certainly find out here about that. So obviously, let's start off the bat here. Obviously, it's been a while since you last came on here. And the last time you came on here, for those that are listening and watching on Sportswire Radio, you weren't a part of Resurrection Wrestling. And shortly afterwards, ironically enough, you came out, you helped Dustin Alexander. But several weeks ago, you've obviously wanted something that he holds, and you've obviously said a number of different things. So, I mean, talk about what we can expect coming up at Saturday Night Riot for that Resurrection Wrestling World Heavyweight Championship against Dustin Alexander, a championship that has eluded to you in your career. And what else would you like to say as that match is going to be coming out? I have no doubt real soon, and your career trajectory could change real soon.
Well, I mean, the main thing I can say is at the end of the night, you're going to be hearing and new Resurrection World Champion. Because I've said this on my Instagram post, I'm not back to make friends. I'm not back to rekindle old friendships with Dustin, with Brady, with none of them. I'm here for one reason only, and that's to get the only title that means anything to me anymore. I've held the national title. I've held the hardcore, the tag team. I didn't hold the internet because that was made after I left, but the only title that's on my mind right now is that Resurrection World Championship. And it's only a matter of time before Dustin get what's coming to him. Dustin's going to get everything that he deserves, and that is having everything taken from him come Saturday Night Riot.
About there on that, let's unpack a couple of things here. Let's start at the very beginning. You talked about the fact that you're not here to make friends. You're obviously here for one thing only. Are you trying to tell me here, for those that are listening and watching on Sportswire Radio, that Dustin Alexander played the game, he was friends with the people in the right places, and that's where he is right now because of basically who he's friends with, rather not for his skills? Is that what you're telling me right now?
Oh, for sure. For sure. Dustin, I will give credit where it's due. Dustin is an incredible talent.
Absolutely. I mean, he has a victory over Jimmy Controversy. I mean, you know, you can't take that away from him. He's got a victory over Jimmy Controversy. I mean, you can't take that away.
You can't take that away. But as good of a talent that he is, if I can quote the words of Triple H, always been a B+ player. He's always he should have stuck where he used to be, and that's in the national little hardcore division where he belongs. He is in a world where nobody expects him to come out of. Nobody expected him to win the world championship, and all props to him. He conquered the beast, which is something not a lot of people in Resurrection can say.
For sure. There's only a select few people that have been a world heavyweight champion, and it's obviously a tremendous accomplishment. But let me ask you a different question. We spoke last time, and we talked about the fact that you were gone for a while, and obviously we're not going to get into that. You're here right now, so it makes no sense. But let me ask you, if you were here in Resurrection throughout those months, that long sabbatical that you had, do you think that we would be talking about you as the world champion, or you as the guy that pinned Jimmy Controversy, you as the guy that everybody would be talking about? Remember, Dustin Alexander wrestled Russell Cooper, who the same night won the TBW World Heavyweight Championship. I mean, maybe if you wrestled Russell Cooper, maybe, as crazy as it sounds, maybe you could have been the Tennessee Backyard Wrestling World Champion. Maybe you could have been the Resurrection World Heavyweight Champion. So do you mean to tell me then, if you would have stayed and let's say things would have been different, that you would be in that spot? Maybe you would have did even more than Dustin Alexander, who, by the way, like we said, pinned Jimmy Controversy and wrestled Russell Cooper right before he won the TBW World Heavyweight Championship. Do you mean to tell me some of those things?
Well, I'll say I don't think anything anymore.
Okay, all right.
As for the Jimmy controversy victory, I don't
Yep.
think that would have changed because is Dustin got that victory from being in a world that he doesn't belong in, and I do not plan on going back into the hardcore world, not
Well, you
anytime.
told us that obviously right off the bat. I mean, yeah, I would think that.
But I feel if things went differently and I wasn't out for that 8-9 months that I was
Yep.
out,
Yeah.
I won the Revenge Rumble last year. I would have had my world championship match. And I know if I didn't lose my career the way I did, I would have beaten the longest reigning world champion Rage. And I am guaranteeing it, I would still be champion right now. And Dustin would have never been a problem.
I don't know if I should say this or not. I don't want to go back down memory lane after some of those things, and obviously Rage is certainly in his own predicament with Drake Golddragon, who's probably going to be here at some point. But if or do you have any regrets?
Oh, I have a lot of regrets. I have a lot of regrets about what transpired. Um, I I got cocky when it came to the Beast.
Why?
I got very cocky. He came out and wanted to cost me a chance of getting my hands on Rage before Retribution, and wanted to challenge me for with both of our careers on the line. And I got cocky because I have beaten him before.
Right, right. We
So
spoke about that here before.
I felt there was nothing else. But I should have put my money where my mouth was. I didn't expect for him to have backup. It took 3 of them to take me out of Resurrection. But there is a lot of regrets, and I really do feel if I didn't get overconfident in myself, I think the entire landscape of Resurrection would not be how it is
Well,
right
I'm glad you said that before I put up some links here in a second so people can get in touch with you. And we're going to actually play some different things here shortly that you've been involved in and say hello to a lot of people because we are in prime time on Friday. And I want to say hello to a lot of people. Also, I want to specifically bring up a comment from somebody real quick that's away from this, but it's going somewhere important. I want to talk about that for a second. But let me ask you then a question. I don't know how you're going to feel about this, but Resurrection Wrestling, since you left months ago before you came back, has exploded. Resurrection Wrestling has had a lot of success. The company has certainly grown dramatically. The company went from this, company in the yard and was like this mom and pop kind of company to doing venues, having some success. Names like Jimmy Controversy, a lot of the talent in Resurrection certainly getting a lot of recognition. Rage wrestled a man that was here a few weeks ago, which I'm sure you saw, Ledger Shade, The Shade, our backyard wrestling and underground version of Hulk Hogan, the greatest draw, I think, of any backyard underground wrestling champion we've ever had. I mean, Resurrection talent have been featured all over the place. There's a guy in the comments right now, D'Angelo the Flame, who's become the darling. He came here from Resurrection Wrestling. He's the guy that everybody's saying is the guy that can go give Jack Delta a run for his money. He's going to the state of Massachusetts tomorrow. He's been in TBW. He's been in AWL and put that Resurrection title, and he's put it up there in a different promotion. So do you feel like that if you would have been here or because you weren't here, that Resurrection Wrestling grew the way it did? And what if you were here? Is it maybe even fair for me to say, could Resurrection Wrestling have grown even more dramatically if you were the top guy rather than the likes of, let's say, Rage?
I do think it would have grew a lot more to what it has. And that's not taking away anything anyone has done. Because I know everyone who has worked to elevate this show has worked extremely hard.
Oh, there's no question about that. Nobody's denying what everybody in that locker room did to grow that company, to have the relationships that it has. NEW Underground Wrestling, AW, of course, the friendship with TBW. Nobody's taking that away. But if you were the man rather than some of those other individuals, and especially Mr. Alexander, I think a point from what you're telling me could be made that maybe Resurrection Wrestling's in venues double the size. Maybe Resurrection Wrestling is bringing in more guys who are established, more independents. Maybe Resurrection Wrestling has more subscribers on YouTube, more followers on Instagram. That's what you're telling me, basically.
And that's exactly what I'm telling you. If I wasn't gone for the almost year that I was, Resurrection has already grown tremendously since I was gone.
Absolutely.
But I feel like if I was still here, Resurrection would have been top of the mountain even more than it already is. I'm never one to I'm not one right now to give credit where it's due, but I will on this. The only reason that Resurrection has grown to the spots that it's at is not because of Dustin Alexander, and it's not because of Rage. It is because solely of D'Angelo LaFlame. And all
He's
credit to
here
him.
tonight. Well, that he's here in the comments.
All credit to D'Angelo. I love him. I was there when he was first getting trained. But he has a spot that I want right now. I don't want the energy of wrestling. I'm not that. I want the spot that everyone is talking about him.
Oh, tonight, how about tonight? Even before you were on the other cam, we mentioned his name. Last night with Gabe Sayers, who wrestled in the main event of Grimm's Toy Show 2 nights ago against Grimm himself. Gabe Sayers, when I brought up D'Angelo LaFlame, again, this is a guy that just wrestled Grimm. Think about that. 1.33 million subscribers on YouTube, 20,000 plus views for Gabe Sayers' main event for the GTS World title against Grimm. You know what he said? D'Angelo LaFlame. I heard of him. D'Angelo LaFlame. Yeah, I know what he's doing. D'Angelo LaFlame. I've seen his stuff. So the point is that if a guy like Gabe Sayers, who just wrestled Grimm, think about it, the 7th biggest wrestling company in the entire world, GTS, which is probably going to have more views than AEW, Rampage, and Collision at this point. I mean, the facts is that he knows who D'Angelo LaFlame is. I mean, Jack Delta was here. The legendary Jack Delta was here not even 2 weeks ago. And, people all the time talk about Jack Delta, and I want to wrestle him, and Jack Delta this year. But you know what? Jack Delta, and I've gotten the chance to interview him now 3 times. Last Monday was the first time that Jack Delta actually addressed somebody, and he said, you know what? Yeah, I know who this guy is. I know all about him. I want to take a shot at him. I take him very seriously. People come on my platform all the time. Craven Rage, not to be confused with the Rage Resurrection Wrestling. Yeah, I want to wrestle Jack Delta. Silverwolf. Yeah, I want to wrestle Jack Delta. All these different people. And they're like Johnny-come-latelys nobodies. But D'Angelo LaFlame is the one guy from when I first interviewed him, almost 8 months ago to now. He's the one guy that his trajectory has gone up so fast. So, in a way, I don't disagree with you whatsoever, but it also tells me from what you're telling me, to bring it back to Resurrection, that guys like Dustin Alexander, nobody really knows them as much. Nobody really knows Dustin Alexander. Dustin Alexander's a champion, but a championship belt, what does it mean if the people don't know you? D'Angelo LaFlame may not be the world champion, but every single promotion that comes on this platform knows who D'Angelo LaFlame is. Everybody wants a piece of him. Dustin Alexander, nice kid, floppy hair, beat Jimmy Controversy, but it's almost like maybe it's an accidental win. Dustin Alexander, yeah, who's talking about him? But D'Angelo LaFlame, everybody's talking about him. So what you're telling me tonight, before I pull up some links here on the screen, is that Dustin Alexander is really a champion, but a champion that really nobody knows. It'd be almost like if a tree fell in the forest, would you hear it?
Dustin Alexander right now for Resurrection. See, the problem that I have with Dustin Alexander is he has been the world champion since lockdown. He has supposed to have been elevating the show the entire time that he's been around, but he's been elevating the show less than the national champion. He's been elevating the show a hell of a lot less than the internet champion. If anything, if it wasn't for me already going for the world title, I'd say D'Angelo needs to, but not right now, because he goes after that, he's got to go fight me. So I don't think he'd want to do that right now. He needs to stick to his internet title. But
I think right now, Mr. LaFlame, I mean, he's got to deal with, and I said this last night on the show, again, with Gabe Sayers, a man that just wrestled Grimm. Think about this. A man that he came here. This is how big Sportswire has been the last few weeks. We just had Gabe Sayers literally about 24 hours prior from wrestling Grimm for the GTS World title. And he was saying, Mr. LaFlame, a lot of pressure on him, going to Massachusetts from Tennessee. Mr. LaFlame is a guy, you know what? Guys are certainly firing shots at him. The firing shots are out there. Basically, they're waiting to see this guy. And can this guy hang? And, obviously, he's got his own issues to contend with because he's got everybody in the yard that wants to see who this guy is, what he can prove. So he ain't going for the world title anytime soon. But what you're telling me tonight, what you're telling me is that Dustin Alexander really is a champion, but is a paper champion, and he's soft. He's not hardcore. He's more soft core, and he's really somebody that, sure, some people might call at once upon a time a hardcore king out there, but the real hardcore queen, from what you're telling me, is Dustin Alexander. And from what you're telling me right now is that Dustin Alexander really is the champion that nobody knows. So does that really make him a champion?
Well, I mean, as far as the hardcore goes,
but even the world championship, I mean, we listed off names, right? And Mr. LaFlame's name comes up, and everybody that watches this platform from other feds, they think Mr. LaFlame's the world champion. They don't think about Mr. Alexander being the world champion. It isn't from what you're telling me. Again, I don't know anything about wrestling. I know zero about wrestling. I don't know what these terms are. I have never been in a ring. I know absolutely zero. I couldn't tell you anything about the world of wrestling. Wink and a nod, by the way. But the point is that from what you're telling me, that if the champion's supposed to be the top guy, he's supposed to be the guy carrying this company. Dustin Alexander's not doing a very good job.
He's doing a terrible job. As long as he's been world champion, as long as he's been double champion, he's been content with letting everyone else carry the show. Like, if this will tell you anything.
Oh, how about Gold Dragon, by the way? Gold Dragon, I mean, he just wrestled Anthony Steele. Gold Dragon, obviously, we've seen what he's done in TBW. Gold Dragon's a guy that's gone out there, and he's a pound-for-pound talent. By the way, he's beaten Rage already. Gold Dragon's gone out there, and he's beaten who he's needed to beat in the ring. Who was Alexander beaten on a time-and-in-time basis? And again, like you said, if you're telling me the top guy is supposed to be the guy carrying the company, he's not doing a very good job from what you're explaining to me.
He's not doing good at all. Like Drake Gold Dragon, he has held that national championship for over 300 days.
I'm away, the longest reigning champion in Resurrection history. Yep. No question about it.
Longest reigning any champion, not just national.
Exactly what I said. Longest reigning Resurrection champion in history.
Dustin has gotten content with holding the championship, holding 2 championships, and letting everyone else outdo him. When with him having not even about the hardcore, with him having the world championship around his waist, he should make it a point to every single night go out there and show out everyone else on the show. But he's gotten content with letting D'Angelo LaFlame outdo him, with letting Ronnie Brady outdo him, letting anybody. And
Ronnie Brady, everybody knows Ronnie Brady. I mean, Ronnie Brady, who's, by the way, Wrestling Rage, by the way, at Anniversary. I mean, everybody knows Ronnie Brady. He's the West Memphis Kid. But from what you're telling me, is it fair for me to ask then that Dustin Alexander has been a failure as world champion, in your opinion? Has he been a failure, in your opinion?
Dustin Alexander has been a failure in his wrestling career. It hasn't just been this world championship run, and this has been a failure. Dustin Alexander, I've said this a million times, I'll say it again. I created Dustin Alexander. I created him out of pity. I saw how much he liked wrestling. I started wrestling. I invited him to come. So he was my little paper project, if that's the way to say it. He wouldn't be anywhere in Resurrection without me. Hell, Resurrection wouldn't be a thing without me.
I was trying to ask that question basically on you felt what the trajectory is, and we see, you in here right now. Let's actually play a little bit for the audience right now.
Rich. That's rich.
Now, I'm not here to pick a fight. I'm here to tell you the truth. All that, that's just how I feel. Probably how a lot of other people feel.
You's weak.
I want the tag team again. I
want a tag team.
Dustin.
A tag team.
Back together.
Let's go.
We don't need the undisputed title. We don't need the hardcore title. There will be no Chaos Society. That's dead. This is just Cage and Dustin.
So when you think me and you get back on top, we can do it again?
I know we could. The 2 actual dominant forces. The real Steppers ain't got nothing. Beast Dragon never had anything. Cage and Dustin's where it's at. After all, first tag team champions.
Right?
So, what do you say, Cage? Say I want the tag team back.
For those that I'm not
All right,
spoiling
yeah.
it, so here
Yeah,
you just wait till what comes in.
Yeah. No, I might need a little bit of time. That's okay.
Sure. Yeah, that's okay. Yeah.
Uh-oh. Don't know how hardcore he is after this particular cage.
You can't be
gonna
very
leave him
hardcore if you're taken out by one chair shot.
You were nothing. Nothing without me. You were only where you're at because I wasn't here. And I'm here to take it back. It's time to be Mr. Resurrection again. No more bullshit. No more doing this for the fans. I'm coming for your belt, and I'm coming for your blood. Oh, you ain't safe.
And we see obviously there the most recent Resurrection Wrestling show, which if you want to watch, it's on their YouTube page. And I'm going to actually have another plug in a second here for some Resurrection Underground Wrestling theme music if you want to create. So obviously you did that there. Everything you said, you stand by it, correct?
I stand by every word that came out of my mouth. I am Mr. Resurrection, and now that I'm back, I'm going to show it.
Okay, well, there was some people that had a few things to say about you on social media, and I wanted to put that up on the screen before I do anything else and get to some comments. I know a lot of people want to say hello, but, you talked about, obviously, you didn't want to do it for friends. You basically said those same things, but what do you say? We're looking at comments, and, obviously the owner of Tennessee Backyard Wrestling says you sold out, and, we see here that you kind of respond, and there's different things talking about jealousy and talking about basically how you, in a way, you won the Revenge Rumble, and obviously you want to get your championship back, and you're going back and forth with people, and then Mr. Alexander responds, and I mean, what do you want to say to some of what the people had to address to you on social media?
Well, first of all, Joshua Allen.
Yes, Joshua, a interesting man that a lot of people have opinions on. Go ahead.
All the respect in the world to Joshua Allen. He's done fabulous with TBW. He's got the biggest backyard show in Tennessee. All power to him. I have nothing.
I would even maybe in the yard, maybe.
But I meant what I said on that Instagram post. I will be watching intently at Anniversary 7, and I'm already coming for the Resurrection World title. Why should I stop there? I could come after the TBW World Championship as well. I have been with Resurrection since episode 1. And I have still yet to appear on TBW.
Why do you think that is? Why do you think you've been pushed over if you're the man that's, molded the careers of Dustin Alexander, your legendary wars with Rage, and, all the different talents that have been in this company? You've been right there with them. Why do you think that Tennessee Backyard Wrestling has passed you over? Why would you say that?
I mean, I think you explained it perfectly well. I've done too good at elevating Rage, at elevating Dustin Alexander. I've made them stars. I mean, that was the best way to put it. For most of my career until right now, I have been a pushover. I have let people push me over.
It sounds like you and Xavier Thorne have a lot in common. You both have been pushed over. You both have been bullied, and now you're both turning on new leaves almost from what you're telling me.
I'm done sitting in the background. I'm done sitting back, letting other people take my moments. That's why no one else in Resurrection could have walked into the Revenge Rumble at number 1 and outlast every single man in that Rumble. That was all me. Same goes for everyone else on this roster. Same goes for Xavier Thorne. I have respect for Xavier Thorne. I know a lot of people like to shit on him. I have respect for him.
Well, he's turned over a new leaf, it seems, these days. He's now the psychopath, and he was successful on TV, and he was here. I'm sure you heard about what he said, and everybody did, actually.
I heard it, and it was. I'm proud of him.
I think a lot of people are, honestly, but kind of like you. You know what? it's no more being with the fans, no more nice guy, and everything's different now. And I think that's what it seems like from what you're telling me is the same deal with you.
It is the exact same deal. People like me and Thorne, we've went our whole careers doing the right thing, trying to do everything by the books. And now it's time for us to be a little selfish. Instead of being selfless, we'll be selfish. Because we have been looked down and used for everything else under the sun. And now is our time to take what's rightfully ours. Him going after D'Angelo LaFlame with the internet title, and me going after my former best friend Dustin for the RPW world title.
Well, okay. Well, we're going to certainly take this off the screen and bring this back on the screen. Actually, we're going to keep this on the screen for a second, but let me get to some comments first before I get to some plugs. Mr. LaFlame is here, and obviously Mr. LaFlame is representing Resurrection Wrestling tomorrow in the NEW Underground Wrestling Riot in the Ring. It's with a slew of hardcore stars all over the Northeast in the United States, and it's a very big deal that he's being there, and we want to wish D'Angelo a lot of luck. And D'Angelo's going to be wrestling Leonidas there. Leonidas obviously is a former NEW World Heavyweight Champion. It's the first round, and we wish D'Angelo nothing but safe travels and can't wait to watch him. Speaking of people in Resurrection Wrestling, of course, Joseph Tibbs, a man I'm sure that you've heard of Joseph Tibbs. Obviously, he says hello. And Mr. Jake Matthews, of course, is the man who's the NEW Underground Wrestling Heavyweight Champion. Of course, his home is NEW Underground Wrestling, and he's going to be meeting Mr. LaFlame. So hopefully we get a photo of Mr. LaFlame and Mr. Matthews. Maybe Mr. Matthews will be covered in blood. He's always covered in blood. And Mr. LaFlame, I'm sure, is the energy of wrestling, but he might meet and refute a few shots to the head, but maybe get a couple of blood packets thrown at him, and they're going to be real, I can assure you. He's going to be bound in blood, to quote Ox McCoy. But Mr. Matthews is here, and we say hello to Jake. And also, if I get 1,000 subscribers on YouTube, I want to put it out there. I'm getting an NEW Underground Wrestling tattoo, and I'm about 300 or so away. So we're a little while. Maybe I'll get to 2,000 subscribers. We'll do a Resurrection Wrestling tattoo. Let's see what happens.
Okay.
Let's see. I got to get to 1,000 first, so never say never. The other Cam is here. He wants to say hello. He says, yeah, I definitely got this guy beat now. Them clouds going to slow him down the ring. He said, LOL, by the way. He said, nah, for real. Hello, other Cam. How's it going? And he just wants to say hi. So we love that. Love Cam. He wants to say hello. He's a big man, though. He's really big. He's like 6'17" with like an 800-pound like waist, and he's like a size 50 shoe. So you might want to be friends with him, not Dustin Alexander.
Yeah.
He's very big. He's been on TV in another place like ROEW, CBW, XCW. Hello, Zilla. Thank you so much. Thank you for tuning in. Mr. Jack Spade, of course, the icon Jack Spade. Let's get to some comments here on this. You did nothing wrong. Take out the champ and see what's yours. You have my support. What does that mean to you,
Jack Spade? Thank you, Jack Spade.
What does that mean to you?
Oh, that means a lot, because me and Spade have had some history.
I'm well aware of it.
Spade is one of the people who cost me my hardcore championship with Ronnie Brady. So hearing that from
they have obviously a long-time friendship. They were brothers, obviously.
That goes a long way. I respect the hell out of Jack Spade. I can't wait to see him.
Me too. I actually respect him as well, actually. And I appreciate that. Okay, I'm going to bring up why he's important in a second, but beat Dustin so hard. Man's got to go back down to the tag division, so he has to rely on others to do for him. What do you want to say to that?
I mean, hopefully we get a tag division, because that's the only way Dustin's going to succeed after I beat him for the world title.
Well, you kind of implied that when we just played the Elevation episode that aired this past week. So we can do that. And here's why Boneyard Productions is also very important. So if you want underground wrestling music, or you have your own music that you'd like to come out to the ring with, or you want something created, Boneyard is the man for it. This is your place, your one-stop source. Think of it like this, ladies and gentlemen. You have our own Jim Johnston right here at the touch of the screen. You have somebody that'll give you undead beats, zombie riffs. He's been featured on, obviously, well, thank you for that, but certainly IWA Deep. That's probably the biggest one there. TBW, obviously, our friends over there in Tennessee, Backyard Wrestling. You got a slew of songs there. You got, obviously, a guy you probably heard of named Atomic Titan. Brian White, a lot more people have heard of. Jay Wild the Prophet. You got more Brian White. You got some other music here. And I would say it's kind of a mix. Some songs have been a mix of, let's say, Cradle of Filth, and some have been a mix of the corporate ministry. Some have been a mix of metal, doom, gloom, new metal, everything in between. But this is your one-stop source for your underground and backyard wrestling music. So I want to put it out there. So if you're out here right now, hit that sub button for Boneyard Productions, because Boneyard Productions, so if you're in, not just in Resurrection, not just in TBW, but if you're in NEW Underground Wrestling, if you're in the IMF, if you're in WCE, if you're in Legendary Backyard Wrestling, if you're in XCW, if you're in TF Crew, if you're in UWF, if you're in DBW, VTW, the company after company that comes on this platform, ROEW, if you're any of those companies, CBW, go hit up Boneyard Productions, hit that sub button, and get your own music. Because again, after all, who wants to play the songs that you got to worry about copyright issues for? Who wants to worry about if somebody's got a song that's already been out there and being used? Create your own. Help out those that support us. Help out those who support the community. Boneyard Productions does that. We've got our own Jim Johnson here. This is what's so important about this community. Let's support those that are supporting us. It's always about all wrestling matters here. So if you're out there, go hit that sub button for Boneyard Productions. So I want to put that out there. We'll leave this on the screen if you don't mind for a few more minutes, and let's get to some more comments. I love and like your tattoo on your arm, Cameron Cage. And yeah, so have you got a new tattoo since you last came on Sportswire, or is it the same tattoo?
No, it's the same tattoo.
Okay, I thought so. I thought maybe, unless maybe I have to get my eyes checked. I'm going to come back to this in a little while. Stay tuned for that.
Oh, Lord.
Stay tuned. I'm going to come back to that, though. Stay tuned. Stay tuned. What's up, Cage? Obviously, a man that you have some history with, James Taylor, who's the new owner of ROEW in the state of Michigan. LaFlame is fire. He is the energy of wrestling. I agree with you on that. D'Angelo says thank you to everybody. Joseph Tibbs would like to say we've had the likes of Cato, Jimmy. By the way, Cato, before I forget, Cato is live 10 o'clock Eastern time tomorrow night. Simply put, Cato, he's here. So you got to tune in. So right now, if you're out there and you're listening to this, you need to tune in. I know anniversary is going to be going on. I know the second half of the show will be aired at that point, but you got to come in for Cato, because Cato, it's a big deal to have him here in this platform. This man does not do interviews often. This is a deathmatch legend. This is somebody that knows his way around. So let's obviously come in, support us, but also support Cato and our friends here at Resurrection. And yes, we've been working with obviously IWA Deep South, Jimmy, Tarzan Duran, Tommy Trainwreck, the Deathmatch Daddy, Jesse. The list goes on and on. I could not agree with you. Thank you, Mr. Taylor. I think I finished that. 100% LaFlame sunk the boat. The best of all. The who we're talking about? Who is that again? Who?
Man, that's my boy. That's my boy.
Yeah, well, I think that's why he was saying that. But
yeah.
All Dustin is a pretty face. You need to knock that smug smile off his face, Cage. What do you say to that?
And I plan on it. Ooh, I can't wait to knock that grin off his face. He thinks it's going to be easy since I ain't been in the ring for a while, but he's got another thing coming.
So how do you deal with that then, before I get to some more comments? How do you deal with the ring rust?
Just go out there and do what I do best. I mean, I don't really have a specific way of dealing with ring rust. I know my own limits, and I know I can make up for ring rust by inflicting pain into somebody else.
Okay. Fair play. We'll certainly come back to that. We both know Dustin was the one holding you back. Show him who the real Resurrection Pro Wrestling champ is. What do you say to that?
Thank you, Boneyard. I'm starting to like you. I might have to check.
That's why I put up his YouTube channel so people can go check him out. Maybe if you want some music created, you can go hit him up. That's why I'm trying to support, because those are, obviously going out there and putting their, time into this. And it's, again, all wrestling matters. And we do that here for the people. And that's what Boneyard is about.
Yeah, I might go look into Boneyard. It's probably time for a change from the old Jelly Roll song.
Well, you might want to keep Jelly Roll's wife, but that's a different conversation for. Well, you can't.
That's a whole different conversation.
You're married, but those out there might want the wife. But hello to Jelly Roll out there if you're listening. But hello to Hillbilly Tilly from the great state of Alabama, who, by the way, had D'Angelo LaFlame on his program there, Alliance Wrestling League. That was a great. And by the way, shout out to AWL working with Resurrection, and also shout out to Resurrection working with Jake Matthews and NEW Underground Wrestling. Also, shout outs, of course, for our long-standing relationship with TBW. I mean, Resi and TBW. I mean, it's so good that we have two companies that are working together. Two companies that was so tightly bound. I know you obviously have to get into TBW. I'm sure once you beat Dustin Alexander, I'm sure that'll open some minds up and eyes. But I just wanted to commend everybody that's been working together, like Joseph Tibbs with then Commissioner Beast, but now Joshua Allen and Matthew Joseph, and obviously Ronnie Brady, the West Memphis Kid, everybody that's been working together to build that relationship. And I think that's what it's about here, networking and giving people opportunities to see different things. And everybody that becomes a fan of TBW becomes a fan of Resurrection, or a fan of Resurrection becomes a fan of TBW. Or if you're a fan of TBW, what you see with AWL and D'Angelo Littlefield, you become a fan there, and AWL and Resurrection NEW Underground Wrestling. That's to me what it's about. All wrestling that matters. James Taylor is obviously upset about some things in TBW. I would say that everybody can make their decision, but he does want to say that Cage should focus on his spot in Resi. I think he's going to be the champ very soon. Do you feel that way as well?
Oh, I feel that way 100%. If anyone's taking that belt from Dustin Alexander, it's going to be me. I don't think anyone else could do it. If they haven't done it yet, then they can't do it anyway.
Let me ask you then a question, and obviously before we get to some more comments, and I want to pull up your Instagram page. So if people want to follow you on Instagram, there you have it. So if you want to go hit a DM, you want to go follow, like, and my ugly mugshot is there because I announced Cameron coming on here to Sportswire. So thank you, Cameron, for actually sharing that, by the way. But
of course,
don't follow because I'm on the platform and on his page. But let me ask you though the obvious question, and I think people would love to know this. What would it mean to you to be the Resurrection Pro Wrestling World Heavyweight Champion?
It would mean everything. It would be the culmination of my entire career in Resurrection, and that spans all the way to the very first episode uploaded.
Talking about a couple years ago, yep.
About a year and a half, 2 years ago, something like that. But it would be the culmination of everything I've worked for in this company. I have wrestled almost everyone in this entire company. I've beaten all the so-called legends in this company. I've beaten Mac 10, Jack Spade, Ronnie Brady. I've beaten Ronnie Brady more times than anybody. But
I guess Anthony Steele will have to take some advice for you on that, because after what Mr. Brady and Mr. Steele, but I won't go there with that. But obviously, you know a thing or two about that. I won't ask you an opinion on that. Don't worry.
I mean, I'll help him out. He come hit me up. I'll give him the secrets. I know all the little secrets.
Well, I'll certainly leave that at that. But let me ask you then, you talked about you've beat all the legends, correct? You've talked about all the people you've beat, in some cases multiple times. So from what you're telling me, right, if you beat, or from your vantage point, when you beat Dustin Alexander, I should say when, right? So when you beat Dustin Alexander to win the Resurrection Pro Wrestling World Championship, are you the greatest legend of all time in Resurrection Pro Wrestling history once you beat Dustin Alexander and win the world title?
When I beat, thank you for that. When I beat Dustin,
because I get reminded about that on Sportswire, because I've done this a lot for 4 years, with whether it's British, indie, backyard, underground. People who are a challenger in this point will always remind me it's when. So I wanted to, do the honors for you.
When I beat Dustin Alexander and have my very first reign as RPW World Championship, I won't be the greatest legend in Resurrection. I will be the last true legend in Resurrection. I've beaten everyone there is to beat. There's only a select few people that I have not had the privilege of getting in the ring with, but that will come once I am champion, because I will be taking out everyone on my time. But once that belt is in my possession and you hear them people say, and new world champion, I will be the last true legend, the only true legend in Resurrection history.
So from what you're telling me then, right, when you beat Dustin Alexander and you win the World Heavyweight Championship, that means, from what you're telling me, that you need to come back onto Sportswire Radio very soon to be inducted into the Hall of Fame. Is that correct?
I mean, if you want the last true legend of Resurrection in the Hall of Fame.
Well, if you're a legend, though, right? I mean, obviously legends are Hall of Famers, correct? Now, I know nothing about anything, but at least from what I think interpretation of what a legend is, wouldn't a legend be a Hall of Famer?
I would think so. I would definitely think so.
So that means when you win the World Heavyweight Championship, you need to come back onto the platform in a matter of days to be inducted into the Hall of Fame.
I mean, if I think that'd be your smartest bet, personally.
I mean, I haven't made many good, smart decisions lately. So, I mean, obviously, I'd like to try to make one, right?
I think this one would be a pretty smart decision, personally.
Well, I mean, certainly, I think it's better than some of the Hiroshimas I've dropped on this platform lately about different individuals. So this seems like this Hiroshima that I'm dropping sounds like one that I think would actually work in my favor this time.
I would believe so. I would believe.
Okay, good to know. Good to know. Good to know. Let me get to some more comments. Big thanks, brother. Yep, thank you very much, and thank you for the nice words. And I got you, Cage. Hit JoJo up to connect with me when you missed the Tibbs. Okay, so thank you for that. Also, Atomic Titan would like to say hello, the Hardcore King. Maybe Dustin Alexander is more like the Hardcore Queen. So if he's the Hardcore King in TBW, what you're telling me is Dustin Alexander the real Hardcore Queen? Because, people on this platform always call Atomic Titan the Hardcore Queen. But from what you're telling me, like as I stated earlier, Dustin Alexander would be the one who's softcore and who's the real Hardcore Queen, correct?
I mean, I will give Atomic Titans just a little bit of respect for when I say this. Atomic Titan is still holding his Hardcore Championship, and Dustin Alexander gave it up. So I would think that Dustin would be the Hardcore Queen.
That's why I asked that question. Thank you very much for reaffirming what I thought I was hearing. Atomic Titan calls James Taylor a tool, and I don't think he's talking about a tool that you use maybe to fix something. Cameron Cage will bring legitimacy back to the World Heavyweight title. I think it's a possibility. I'm going to hang on to Incorporated. I want to get to that in about 10 minutes. I'm going to say no comment on that because I don't know anything about that stuff. I'm going to certainly say I don't know anything about that because I don't work in TBW. I don't think you work in TBW, right? So that's
TBW.
I don't work there, and I want to say it. Usually, I'll chime in and say yeah, or something. But in this case, I happen to like James and I happen to like TBW. So I'm going to just say I hope that they fight it out and maybe made the best person win. But I just want to say support Backyard Wrestling.
Yep. I'm on your side with that one.
I think this might be the one I actually said something that I can honestly say that I think I did a good thing on here. Okay, so let's come back to the couple things at first. So for on Sportswire Radio, my name is the Reverend Tom Bryce. We're here with Cameron Cage. You can follow Cameron on Instagram at TheCamCage on Instagram. Also, a whole bunch of links here for Resurrection Wrestling. I want to remind people tomorrow, 10 o'clock, Kato is here. Kato is going to be, I'm sure, to talk about whatever that man wants to talk about. Anything else that's on his mind. Maybe a few other things you might see in this company. Also, if you want to buy some merchandise, you can do that here. We're on TikTok. Patreon, by the way, I'm a subscriber to Patreon. I'm a paid subscriber to Patreon. So you got to say, I always try to back up. Also, redbubble.com. You got some of those things there. So check all that stuff out there. And I'll have more coverage before when it comes to Kato. I have Omen Black at 7 o'clock Eastern time. And speaking of Atomic Titan, he's here Sunday night, 9 o'clock Eastern time. So Mr. Titan is here. So maybe I'm sure you're going to be tuning in while you're planning what you're going to do to Dustin Alexander. But obviously, that's the case. He'll be here Sunday night, 9 o'clock Eastern time. But my name is the Reverend Tom Bryce. If you're on Sportswire Radio, hit that sub button here. Also on YouTube, it's Sportswire Radio 6579. I'm closing in on 1,000 subscribers. So if I get another 300 more, I'm getting a tattoo. And if maybe I get to 2,000, maybe I'll hit that Resurrection Pro Wrestling tattoo. So help me get there and help me, God. And maybe I'll get more fans that way. Who knows? But I'm only kidding. But support every company that comes on here. Every company that comes on here, please support them. It's really about all wrestling matters. And I want to make sure that we support everybody. I know sometimes things come up, but we really want to support those that are here in the community. Cameron Cage. Okay, Cameron, I want to ask you a couple things here on a side track before I get to Incorporate, because I want to ask you some things on that. But let me ask you, because I haven't got a chance to have you on here in a while, now that you're in this match here coming up for the world title, but what are your goals here coming up for the rest of the year?
My sole one and only goal is to take the Resurrection World title and be the best Resurrection World Champion of all time. I'm here to outlast Neff. I'm here to outlast
Who is that name?
He who shall not be named.
Okay, now I saw you got it.
I mean, I'm here to. I'm ready to outlast every single champion that has ever been in Resurrection. Hell, maybe by the end of the year, I'll be going after the TBW World Championship. I will keep my eye on who walks out champion at anniversary.
Well, can I ask you a question on that? And again, I know that, obviously you're focused on Resi. You're not there tomorrow for anniversary. And I'm going to have Atomic Titan here Sunday night. And I'm actually going to have Beast, who's now the Prophecy Beast, who was the commissioner. But do you have an inkling on who you think will win between Jay Wild and Russell Cooper?
Honestly, me personally, I think Russell's going to lose his nerve in this match. I think Prophet's finally going to get his world title run.
I was going to say the same thing. I'm like, Jay Wild, does he finally win the big one? He's knocked on the door going back to Ledger Shade, and when the Shade was the champion. He's just, unfortunately, from his vantage point, never been able to win the big one.
I really think that now is his time, especially with the backing that he has with Beast, with Chaotic.
Yep.
I think he has it this time.
So you feel like that Russell Cooper's on borrowed time?
I mean, he did only win the match with the briefcase. He took advantage of it.
Obviously, Gage, well, yeah, 100%. I mean, and listen, and that, ironically enough, going back to where it goes back to you, that day to start off the show that ended last year, season finale, he wrestled Dustin Alexander to start the show. So maybe in a way, if Dustin Alexander couldn't finish the job, we might be looking at a different outcome there, huh?
Oh, I very much believe that. If Dustin would have finished the job, Russell Cooper would not have been champion, and Gage Flair would still be rocking with that.
Do you blame Dustin Alexander for what's going on in TBW as well? Do you want to go down that road? Do you want to go down that rabbit hole?
I blame Dustin Alexander everything wrong in wrestling.
You know
Dustin
what? You want to
Alexander
there's a problem right now with the world, with the wars in Ukraine and there's Israel and the stock market, inflation. Do you want to blame Dustin Alexander for that? Do you want to blame Dustin Alexander for the worst box office showing in America since Memorial Day 1995? Do you want to blame Dustin Alexander for the Titans' bad season? Do you want to blame Dustin Alexander for, the lowest viewed NBA playoffs in recent memory? Do you want to blame Dustin Alexander for everything if you have a chance?
I blame everything on Dustin. Everything wrong going on in this world is Dustin Alexander's fault. And it's all because he's holding the title that should be mine.
Okay, well, I had to ask because you know what? It's interesting because, Dustin Alexander wrestled Russell Cooper to start that night off. If he wins that match, and Russell Cooper, again, who was limping going into that when he cashed the briefcase, and, like you said, Gage Flair is the champion, or maybe Jay Wild wins the title quicker. I don't know.
I feel like if Dustin would have manned up and proved that he was the hardcore champion that he was then and finished the job with Russell Cooper, I feel like it would have been a clean. I feel like he would still have that briefcase right now. He would still be trying to find the right time, but he'd also be nursing a hurt leg. But
so
Dustin,
let me ask you, because I want to bring up Incorporated in a few minutes, but let me ask you one more point on this. You kind of answered the question on goals. So I got that. I got all that about the Resurrection title. But let's say you win this match, and when you win, right? Obviously, when you win, you're the world champion. You're watching from afar. We also know that this summer, from at least what we know from last year, TBW and Resi, I know aren't done. We're going to see probably another Battlefield. It was already talked about, I think, last year. So we know the history there. We know basically Resi's a big part of anniversary tomorrow. You're the top guy. You're the world champion. Wouldn't it be easier for you to knock off Russell Cooper than Jay Wild?
It would very much be a lot easier for me to knock off Russell Cooper. But if there's anything to learn from my big mouth and my confidence, I never take the easy way out. I mean, I lost my career because I was confident in beating the big man. So I think I'd be more happy with having it be the Prophet.
So you would say then, basically, from your vantage point, that you would rather test your skills against the proclaimed best rather than a guy that, from your vantage point, you don't really think he's much of a champion, rather an accidental champion. And maybe help me understand this. Maybe he's very similar to Dustin Alexander, another accidental champion, a champion that when you look at the eyes of previous champions in Resurrection and TBW, he doesn't pass the litmus test from what you're telling me.
I believe that they are on the same shelf that they are champions by circumstances, champions by
Accidental. That's an accidental champion, correct? Isn't that?
They're very much champions by chance. They were at the right place at the right time. That boy Russell Cooper, he was in the right place at the right time, just able to walk enough to throw that last kick and pin Gage Flair.
And Gage had just wrestled a very, very intense match, and he didn't have almost any time to stand, period. And he had also dealt with what happened with Jay Wild and Beast. Really on equal footing, you can't say Russell Cooper would be the champion from what you're telling me. I think that's a very valid, assumption.
I think the same reason I think that the Prophet Jay Wild is going to beat Russell Cooper is the same reason that Russell Cooper is world champion. He is only TBW world champion because the Prophecy took out Gage Flair before he made it.
But it would also, what you're telling me is that Dustin Alexander is champion for a very similar situation. And what you're telling me tonight is that Russell Cooper and Dustin Alexander in a matter of days are going to be usurped as champions, and they're going to be disposed of, and you're going to be one of those champions.
That's exactly what I'm saying. The Prophet Jay Wild is going to finish his destiny and become TBW world champion. And on the other hand, Dustin Alexander is finally going to meet his fate that he's been needing to meet since the start of Resurrection, and to find out
for 2 years just about
that he's never been better than me. He's never been able to outstage me.
Let me ask you one more question. I want to get to incorporate here. Let me ask you one more question, though. And when you become the champion, when you become the top guy, Resurrection grows bigger than it's ever grown before?
I would believe so, yes, because they'll have an actual... I'm not going to sit here and say that they'll have a fighting champion, because that's what they have right now. Dustin Alexander will fight anyone anytime. I won't. I'll fight.
But he's a paper champion from what you're telling me tonight, right? That's a very valid statement, no?
He is a paper champion because his entire reign as world champion, he has been treating that belt like it is the undercard championships.
I talked about it the entire conversation, right? We mentioned Gold Dragon and LaFlame. More people know them. LaFlame, certainly. LaFlame right now is the darling of the entire yard. People that come onto this platform, they know his name. They don't know Dustin Alexander. If you put Dustin Alexander in a lineup, right, you put him with a list of different wrestlers, right, and you put them all, lined him up, right, in Resurrection Wrestling. You took all the different companies that come on here, right, aside from TBW, because we know the relationship. But let's take IMF. Let's take VTW. Let's take DBW. Let's take XCW, NEW. Let's take any company that's out there, WC if you want to, Legendary Backyard Wrestling. You want to put in there TF Crew. You want to put in there UWF. You want to put in any company that's here with us. And if you put a lineup, all the names in Resurrection Wrestling, and the one you put them in a lineup, nobody knows who Dustin Alexander is. Nobody knows him. But D'Angelo LaFlame, they'll recognize him. They'll definitely know who he is. UWA, want to throw UWA in it. They've been coming on the platform recently. So the point is, if I take UWA, IMF, WC, I take XCW, I don't want to put XCW, but I put ROEW in there. I put VTW. I put in TF Crew. I put in NEW. I put in all these companies, right? And I asked them, could you pick somebody out of Resurrection Wrestling? None of them will pick Dustin Alexander. But every single one of them will pick D'Angelo LaFlame. And what you're telling me tonight, that Dustin Alexander then is a paper champion. He's not a very good champion because the champion's supposed to be the top guy. Everybody's supposed to know the top guy. Everybody's supposed to know the champion. And for what you're telling me in a lineup card, that he's really not a good champion.
It's exactly what I'm saying. Because, I'm going to re-say what you just said. If you don't know the top champion of the company,
what good is he?
Then you're not representing your company very well. Like, I've said this before, but at this point, the internet title is the world championship.
He's the man that everybody knows. Like I said, go to every company that comes on here. IMF, WC, NEW. You go to ROEW. You go to Legendary Backyard Wrestling. Even if they're in the trampoline or in the big leagues, it doesn't matter. They know. Listen, GTS knows who D'Angelo LaFlame is.
I'm very proud of him that.
a lot of people know he's really. I tell you what. Off before I want to get to Incorporated, D'Angelo the Flame is somebody to me that I think everybody should be proud of him because what this young man has done in a matter of months is he's really putting the yard and underground on his back. He is really doing things that, the fact that he got somebody from GTS who just wrestled the main event for the world title there and said, yeah, I know who he is. I pay attention to him. I watch him. That shows you that what this young man is doing, everybody needs to go and support him. I don't care if you're an AWL, ROEW, IMF, WCE. I don't care if you're wankers like XCW, VTW. If you're DBW out there, if you're TF Crew, obviously Gabe says it's TF Crew. If you're NEW, they're going to have him tomorrow. If you're any company out there, TBW, we certainly know the relationship. Let's not even go there. UWA, I don't care who you are. You got to go support this man. You got to go out there and support that young man because he's doing something that very few people have done. Okay, I want to leave this and I want to talk to you about Incorporated because that has been the topic of the minds of everybody in Resurrection Pro Wrestling. And I'd like to ask you, since you're supposed to be the man coming up here, what is your opinions on Incorporated? Because you've actually had a few things to say on Instagram about that.
Well, I'm still trying to figure out this Incorporated stuff, honestly, because I've heard a lot of names get thrown out there as to who it could be. That some people are saying it's me, but I mean, obviously it's not me.
Not you.
If I'm over here commenting on it on Instagram, I mean, I have more important stuff to focus on right now than hacking an Instagram account. I'm focusing on winning the World Championship. Incorporated, honestly, as long as they stay out of my way, I have no problems with them. Do what y'all want, as long as you're not messing up my moment and my chance at taking the World Championship. You ain't gonna hear no bad blood from me.
Okay, let me ask you a question on this. Now, okay, you're giving me a story, and I'm inclined to believe you. I've gotten a chance to know you, but you can, though, see why people would potentially have you as a suspect when it comes to what or who could be Incorporated.
Oh, I very much see why people would say it. I understand that ever since I did what I did, I'm not the most likable guy. I understand.
Who would have guessed? Who would have guessed? Who would have guessed?
I mean, even before then, backstage, I'm not the most likable guy. But
well, I mean, we have James Taylor and Atomic Titan going back and forth, and I'm sure some people could see what's going on there with that. But I mean,
Incorporated is definitely something I've got my eye on, and I'm trying to figure out what's going on with it.
And here we are. We have you right now talking about it.
Full year ago today.
Oh, I remember that.
Walked into the Revenge Rumble at number 1. Cleaned out the entire ring and walked out the first ever Revenge Rumble winner. Now, that might have been a year ago.
What do you
but
think
I've still yet
now?
to get my one-on-one match for the World Championship, for the RPW Undisputed Championship. Now, I know what a lot of people would say. I lost my career. I've been gone. That doesn't matter. I'm back in RPW. I'm back in Resurrection. I'm not going to stop until I get the match that I deserved. And I know I just got a World Championship match
What the hell?
with Dustin Alexander and the Beast, Adrian Prince. But that doesn't do it justice. I want my one-on-one, rightfully earned championship match. I want Dustin Alexander one-on-one. Now, I hear he's not hardcore champion anymore, which is fine. I don't care about that. That one championship, the RPW Undisputed Championship, is the one championship that I do not have, that I've never had before. I don't care about the national championship. I don't care about the hardcore. I don't care about the brand new internet championship. The only title that means anything to me is that world championship. And I will stop at nothing to get my rightful one-on-one spot. Now, as for Dustin, I'm sorry that you're in the situation. I'm sorry that you're the one who has the belt, because me and you have a lot of history. But just because we have history does not mean that I won't gun for you just as hard as anyone else.
Well, there you have it. I mean, so Resurrection Wrestling.
It has been a long, long time since I've been in Resurrection, and I did not come back to Resurrection to rekindle old friendships. I did not come back to Resurrection to play Mr. Putover. I am the last true legend in Resurrection. I am the last true legend from episode 1. There are only 3 people actually in this show consistently that were here since the very first episode. That is me, West Memphis bitch Ronnie Brady, and Mac 10. Mac 10 is too busy doing his little deathmatch stuff. Applaud to him. He's doing very well. Ronnie Brady, he's still doing stuff. But I've beaten him enough times where he is not my concern. I have beaten almost everyone on this roster. I've beaten every.
I think we get the point here.
Yeah, I've said all that.
Okay, so the point is that we'll take this off the screen. So you would say that Incorporated just rather coincidence on certain things. Is that correct from what you're telling me?
Well, I mean, I'll be completely honest with you. You just got my organic reaction because I haven't seen that. I remember doing the promo.
Yeah.
But,
but there were certain things that played there, though. There was little, things that didn't seem like a usual Cameron Cage Instagram live, because you've done Instagram. I've seen your Instagram lives.
Yeah.
I mean, this was a little different here, and speaking of that, that's kind of breaking here a little bit. I mean, apparently we actually have something live for you and anybody else that's out there, because it looks to me as if Incorporated is live right now on Sportswire Radio, and Incorporated has something to say, and I'm going to give Incorporated the floor because I think Incorporated has seen enough. They've seen some of the things you've had to say, and Incorporated now wants to speak live here on Sportswire Radio.
Hello, Cameron Cage.
The hell do you want?
You know what I want. I want the same thing you're after.
What is that?
I want that title. I want that RPW championship in my control.
You want what's rightfully mine. You want the only thing that I've been trying to get ever since I came back. And you just out of nowhere took over an Instagram and say you want the biggest title in Resurrection?
Speaking of taking over that Instagram page, that was very easy. It was also easy to stalk you all and watch the action at Saturday Night Riot from afar.
I mean, I come, get my stuff done, and go. I don't pay no attention to anybody else.
You know what's kind of funny about that, Cage?
What?
You talked to me.
I talked to you?
I spoke to everybody from the roster at Saturday Night Riot, yet none of you know it. Every last one of you was talked to. Even the fans.
Well, why don't you turn that voice recorder off, turn your camera on, and show who you are?
Why ruin the surprise?
I mean, if you want the world title so bad, talk to the person who's about to have it.
Well, I don't think I have to because I've been talking to people. I'm not just one person anymore. I've been recruiting.
Recruiting?
Yes. People by your side that you know and that you've been in the ring with are in on it.
So what is your point?
My point is, you will fail in your attempt at Dustin Alexander. You will fail if you enter the Revenge Rumble. And your career is going to continue on the downward spiral that it's been on since you came back.
All right. Now, I mean, I've been trying to take you serious. I've been trying to figure out what's going on ever since you hacked the Instagram. But now you're just speaking out of your ass. I'm not losing a Saturday Night Riot. Hell, if I want to, I'll go win the Rumble. I don't believe a thing you're saying because I know it's not true.
Well, I guess we'll find out when Saturday Night Riot comes around. What happens if you
Yes,
do
we
lose,
will.
Cage? What does happen if you lose?
What happens if I lose? I'm not going to stop till I get it. On the very, very, very slim chance that I lose to the person I created, I won't stop until he's out of Resurrection completely. I will stop at nothing to either make sure I have that world championship or make sure he has nothing left at all.
And you can do that, as I really don't care about Dustin Alexander either. So, I've got people that I'm eyeing and championships that I'm eyeing. And it may not be me, it may not be the person speaking to you right now that takes that championship, but I've got people who can do that for me.
Well, why don't you bring him to me at Saturday Night Riot? Maybe I'll talk to him.
Or maybe I draw the suspense out just a little bit longer. You know a thing or two about suspense, don't you, Cage?
A little bit.
I mean, you had us all wondering when was Cameron Cage going to return to Resurrection Wrestling, only to return in a hardcore open challenge that ended in a no contest.
Bad memories. Don't bring that up. That was one of my biggest failures.
I would like to know personally how a hardcore match ended in a no contest, but that's a question for my other target, the general manager and the referee.
Look. I'm gonna say this right now for everybody watching. If you think that you or your little friends will get the RPW championship just because you hacked a referee's Instagram, a referee who doesn't get in the ring, he gets in there and half-ass counts to 3. he makes false calls. He misses everything.
That's
If you
been
think
mentioned on this platform actually a few times, but go ahead, keep talking.
If you think that any of that means that you're going to get anywhere close, you or any of your little cronies are going to get anywhere close to my championship, you got another thing coming.
Well, Cage, I guess only time will tell. And don't fear. I won't be hiding behind the screen for long. Soon I will reveal myself, and I guarantee you have no idea who's behind them.
Well, go ahead and do it. Go ahead and take the voice changer off, turn your camera on, show the whole world.
Well, you know what, Cage? I'm going to leave you wondering. Keep guessing in your head. I've heard common theories from you and other people that assume I am Xavier Thorne. That is very wrong.
Well, I mean, Mr. or Mrs. or whatever Incorporated might be, we really appreciate you coming on to the platform and obviously discussing a few different things. And we certainly thank you for your time. And we hope to see, I suppose, more of you in the future, whatever that might come. And we hope that everybody tunes in to see what the future might be, I suppose.
All right. Thank you for your time, Tom Bryce, Cameron Cage. I'll be seeing you very soon.
Thank you very much, Incorporated. And there you have it. That was Incorporated, who we still don't know. And that was that, Mr. Cage. I mean, I've got more questions than I had originally 10 minutes ago. And I think that'll be something I'm sure a lot of people will remember there, sir.
Well, I mean, at least with this happening, can we all agree that it's not me now?
I have no idea though. I honestly, I'm speechless. I don't know. You know, a lot of times we come on this platform and I'm this, I'm that, and I was left speechless because there's multiple people it could be. We don't know if it's a he, a she. I mean, we really don't know. I mean, there was different things that were discussed there in terms of we'll be seeing more. It's multiple, and you're going to find out. And people you've been in the ring with. I mean, there's a lot of questions there, and I mean, it could be multiple. I don't know what to tell you, honestly.
I got to figure this out. He said he talked to me.
Been multiple people been in the ring with you. Could be multiple people. We don't know if it's a he, a she. I mean, there's just a lot of questions that, again, I don't think we got any answers for right now.
I got my answer. It's the
Go
same answer that I said earlier. Everything that's wrong in the world. It's Dustin
Dustin Alexander. Oh, gee. That drum roll, please. But well, I mean, I would say this. I'll tell you this much. The champion's not here tonight. I haven't heard a peep from Dustin Alexander the entire evening. You know, usually we do these and we hear something about the champion or somebody about the opponent. Somebody's in here commenting or give me a link. I want to say something. I want to address my opponent. Not a peep from Dustin Alexander. So from what you're telling me, that Dustin Alexander should be one of the suspects.
I mean, he's the only one who's not going crazy. And
I've seen different people from the Resi locker room and different people here tonight from Resi. And where is Dustin Alexander?
it's a very good question. I probably took him out and he can't be on his phone.
So he's been in such pain from what you did to him 3 days ago that basically he's in a hospital bed somewhere and he's fallen and he can't get up.
It just proves the point that we said he's the hardcore queen. He's this hurt over one chair shot.
Well, so that tells me then that he should be one of the people that should be held accountable for this, not you.
That's exactly what I'm saying. I mean, this is proof. I was on this screen. He was on that screen. And he was obviously rebuttaling stuff I said, so it's not pre-recorded.
No, it was live. No, listen. Incorporated was here. This is the first time that Incorporated's been on this platform. Obviously, this has been a talk of the locker room for weeks, but this is the first time we've seen anything related to Incorporated, and I don't have any answers for you.
I don't have any answers either. I plan on getting to the bottom of this very soon.
You do?
Soon.
Will you get to the bottom of it before Saturday Night Riot, though?
That I don't know. You know what? I'll make you this promise.
I know that if we agreed, if you win the World Heavyweight Championship, when you win it, that you'll be in the Hall of Fame and you'll be back on this platform. From what we agreed on, as far as I recall correctly, and I'm sure the videotape and the footage will agree with me on that.
I mean, hey, whenever I win the world title, I'll happily come over here and do something else that Dustin Alexander hasn't done yet.
And you'll join D'Angelo Hall of Fame because he's in the Hall of Fame.
I'll happily join D'Angelo. I love D'Angelo.
Who doesn't love D'Angelo? But I do want to give a plug before I come back to a few final thoughts. I want to say hello to Andrew Lovelace, who's actually our DJ coming up here. And Andrew's important because we have actually a live show coming up Wednesday night, 7:30 p.m. Eastern time. So if you want to hear some music, you want to have some stories, you want to come on the stream, you want to talk for a few minutes, you want to request some songs, you want to be able to hang out with us, Andrew's going to morph into his role because he's actually a very accredited DJ. He's DJ Dirty White Boy. So the entire evening, Wednesday night, it's no interview. It's just we're going to be playing some music. So if you want to come on the stream, you want to hang out, you want to talk, you want to play music, whatever it is, Andrew's going to be here. Andrew's also a very respected pro wrestling veteran. He's been in there. He just hung out with Ric Flair. He's hanging out with us. I don't know why he wants to hang out with us after hanging out with Ric Flair, but he's going to be here Wednesday night, 7:30. And I can't wait to hear those stories. It's going to be Wednesday night, 7:30 p.m. Eastern time. So throughout the entire evening. So we're just playing music. We're hanging out. So this is not an interview. It's just if you want to come on the stream, say a few words, talk in between songs, whatever it is, come on down. Also be in the chat. We're going to, whatever it is you want to, just hang out all evening, open mic, whatever it is. Andrew Lovelace is going to be our DJ Dirty White Boy. So hang out here. Zilla, I'm a big fan of Incorporated. I think Zilla is just saying she's a fan of everybody, and we appreciate that, Zilla. But I think Incorporated, we don't know what Incorporated is right now. So
I wouldn't be a fan of somebody I don't know who it is.
So I mean, I have to almost end in a few different thoughts on. First of all, and you have, so basically to summarize, no thoughts other than it could be Dustin Alexander. Blame him. Correct?
Yes, correct.
No other inklings of anybody else.
Everything is Dustin Alexander.
Anthony Steele couldn't be incorporated. You know, I have to throw his name out there for everything. Couldn't be Anthony Steele, right?
I'll be honest. I've shared a locker room with Anthony Steele more than
another person that a lot of people have opinions on. But well, go ahead.
I've shared a locker room with him. Personally, I don't think he's smart enough to hack an Instagram. Personally,
he's on Sportzwire a lot. I would actually say that he probably could be good at that, but I think the reason I don't think Anthony is incorporated is because to me, Anthony is always basically like he comes on here, is like, okay, this is what's on my mind. So I don't think Anthony would really like, let's say be multiple people. Anthony's pretty much like what you get from, which was what I love about Anthony. What I love about Anthony is like what you see is what you get. So like there's no like pulling punches. There's no like BS. Anthony is Anthony. So I think Anthony's not incorporated because I mean Anthony's here like every day on Sportswire. And I think Anthony probably would have said something because Anthony drops Hiroshimas like other than me. So I don't
Very
think
badly.
I'll be honest with you. If you've watched some of my shows, I have been dropping a lot of Hiroshimas, but Anthony's probably the only person that I could say is right up there with me. And even yesterday's show, Anthony with Gabe Sayers was talking about a guy that you can go back and watch the footage. Was basically he was booked for GTS and got thrown out of GTS because he basically didn't shower. He had bad hygiene, and let's not even go there with it. Go watch the tape. But Anthony, I don't think is certainly incorporated. I want to say hello to. Also, let me give a big plug to, if you don't mind, this one I want to give an important plug to. Our guest here coming up June 23rd, 6 o'clock. Why is this man important? Because he is one of the fathers of the backyard scene from yesterday. That is Mr. Hardcore. He is a part of the GWC. And if you know anything about Copper Dragon, the legendary Copper Dragon, who is our backyard wrestling ambassador, he is our Dave Meltzer. He's the official score keeper of all wrestling. He has been reviewing a lot of matches, whether you're in any Resurrection, TBW, whether you're in IMF, whether you're in WCE, whether you're in NEW, whether you're in TF Crew, so many companies out there. This man, Copper Dragon, has been reviewing those matches and rating them. We had the honor to have him on this platform. Mr. Hardcore wrestled Mr. Dragon, wrestled alongside him in the legendary GWC, which Xavier Thorne was a part of once upon a time ago. And GWC was a part of the legendary Global Backyard Wrestling Network, which in many ways was the first place to network and try to bring a community in backyard wrestling. Mr. Hardcore is from the great state of Georgia, obviously in the South. We love Georgia. We love everything that this man has done. He just wants to say thank you, Mr. Cage, for your service in the backyard underground wrestling world. And I'm so glad he said that because, last night, real quick, if I want to just go off topic very quickly, it's in a good way. I promise you, no Hiroshimas. But what I promise you is that wrestling to me is a beautiful art form. Often, too many times, us in the backyard, meaning the people that come on this platform, get shitted upon. They get disrespected. But I can promise you on this platform, that will never happen. And I can promise you that long as, in the words of Gabe Sayers, you keep wrestling, you keep working out there, it's all going to sort itself out. The best is yet to come, whether it's for Cameron Cage, Atomic Titan, Andrew Lovelace, anybody else that comes on this platform, Anthony Steele, Atomic Titan. I can assure you that true yarders do it for the love of this sport. They do it for their blood, sweat, and tears to put it out for us to enjoy. And this man laid the foundations for it. Copper Dragon laid the foundations for it, and we just want to thank them. Yes, we want to thank you, Mr. Cage, for your service, but we want to thank Mr. Hardcore, the legendary Skrilla, Shalance Royal, obviously Mr. Dragon himself, and everybody who laid the foundations, put their body on the line, and did everything they could to keep this community going. He was a part of that community all those years ago in the Global Backyard Wrestling Network, which, by the way, produced a guy, Rad Dad Radley Belmont, who's been a huge part of GTS currently. So I just want to say that's who Mr. Hardcore is, and we want to thank you. And by the way, Incorporate wants to say, haha, that's funny, Boneyard. So there you go. So because here's why. Because Boneyard thinks it's Ronnie Brady, the West Memphis Kid. What do you think on that?
That would make a lot of sense, actually.
Why, though? Because I think, why would you say that, though? He was trying to get the world title and fell short because of Anthony Steele. So why Ronnie Brady, the West Memphis Kid?
I mean, there's plenty of reasons why it could be Ronnie Brady. I mean, he acts like he's this good guy right now, but people like me, and I hate to say it, Dustin, know him very well because we spent a lot of time together being in a group. And I know the real person that Ronnie Brady is. And if he wants something, he will do anything, including take over for whatever he wants. And I could see this being something he would do.
But he seems like he's preoccupied right now.
That's one thing that he's very good at. He will make
Are you calling him a manipulator? Are you calling him a politician? What are you trying to say about him?
I'm calling Ronnie Brady the biggest snake in Resurrection. And that's coming from someone who just turned his back on his friend. Ronnie Brady will use you and take advantage of you until he can get nothing else out of you. He did it with Jack Spade. He did it with me and Dustin.
But Dustin doesn't seem to see it that way.
Dustin in wrestling has the mind of a toddler. He is the kind of kid who will see a bus that says free candy and jump in it. He doesn't pay attention to anything like that. He'll say, if someone says you're his friend, he will believe you until the day something happens. And that's what happened with us.
Okay, so what you're telling me is that Dustin Alexander is oblivious and he has no idea about what Ronnie Brady could be doing to basically undermine him and everybody else, correct?
I mean, he did that to me. He undermined me when we were in Chaos Society and turned on me whenever I won the Hardcore Championship.
But I know Jack Spade had his problems, but I don't recall Ronnie Brady turning on Jack Spade toward the end. It was Jack Spade who got fed up.
Jack Spade just beat him to the punch. Jack Spade.
Maybe. I mean, that would be a question that I would have to ask Jack Spade when he comes onto Sportswire again. I mean, Ronnie Brady's coming back to Sportswire soon. I could ask him about that. I mean, Mr. Brady's going to be here probably in a matter of days. I mean, I could ask Mr. Brady that question. I mean, we're supposed to actually have him tomorrow. He'd like to come on tomorrow, but I have Cato on tomorrow, so I think Cato's going to beat him to the punch on that. So
yeah, I think you should choose Cato over Brady.
I'm choosing Cato on that one because I'm not going to get Cato angry. That's for sure.
Yeah, no, you don't want to get Cato angry.
Oh, listen, there's a lot of people I want to get angry, and there's a lot of people I don't want to get angry. And I want to say also, would be easy to take over a page he owns.
That's fair. That's fair. I don't know who owns that account per se. I know
we don't know, but that's not public knowledge. That's not public information. You know, somebody owns a house. You know who owns a house, but we don't know who owns a Resurrection Wrestling Instagram page.
Fair. That's fair. I mean, I know GM Steven runs it, but I don't know if he owns it or not.
Steven Silvestri's got a lot of problems right now. Steven Silvestri can't count to 3. Steven Silvestri's dealing with problems in the locker room. I have no idea Steven Silvestri. Do you think Steven Silvestri's on borrowed time?
I think if Steven Silvestri keeps going the way he's going, the entire roster is going to jump him.
But don't most of the roster don't like him anyway, it seems?
90% of the roster hates him because 90% of the time he screws over most of the guys. He's the reason that Drake Golddragon is still champion because there have been a few times where he should have lost that title.
Yep. I'm aware of that.
To Rage.
I was actually going to get to that, but thank you for beating me to the punch. But Silvestri does seem like to be a man that has got very low approval ratings.
Oh, he doesn't have very many people sticking up for him. I'll tell you that.
I would say that I don't really see much of a reason why. Brady didn't own it. Okay. Also, Jack Spade wants to point out I didn't do anything to Brady that he wouldn't have done to me.
Yep.
Well, I'm going to ask Jack that question. Listen, I'm not saying that Ronnie would have did it or Jack would have did it first. I'm just pointing out Jack did it first. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying that he's right or wrong. And I want to say hello to Jack Delta, of course. Jack Delta, of course, we know from TBW. And Jackson Law was supposed to have been here next Sunday, but Jackson Law is like a loser. You know, you want to talk about people that are less liked than Steven Silvestri. Jackson Law would be that guy. Honestly, I mean, I'm probably now dropping the Hiroshima. Steven Silvestri might have very low approval ratings in the Resurrection Wrestling locker room, but in certainly the backyard wrestling community, Jackson Law is about as popular as Joe Biden and Donald Trump are to some people. So let's be honest. I mean, Jackson Law is not very popular for reasons rightfully so, because basically he's a guy that, despite being in the Hall of Fame, is obviously, well, I'm going to let the people that have worked alongside him in a locker room basically dictate that. But he tried to basically want to come on here and usurp and basically do different things, but I'm going to basically break it here. He's also the same guy that asked, hey, can you find a way to get me into GTS to wrestle Rad Dad Bradley Belmont? So Jackson Law, you're not wrestling Rad Dad Bradley Belmont on GTS TV anytime soon, and you're probably not going to be on Sportswire unless it's going to be something you're going to promote that's with good intentions. So that's my statement on Jackson Law. I'm sticking to it, and if anybody wants to ask, I will have the screenshots to show it, and I will prove it, and there's nothing that I'm saying that's differently. And Jack Delta basically kind of laughed, and that's pretty much the truth. Okay, so Incorporated, we'll see if it's Ronnie Brady. We'll see if it's anybody else. You say Dustin Alexander, I suppose. But in the interest of time, let's go with a couple things here first. Give me your final words to Dustin Alexander before Saturday Night Riot.
Final words
for
to
Dustin Alexander before Saturday Night Riot. I know it's been an interesting evening, but that's what I would like to ask you.
Well, Dustin is just like Steven Silvestri. His title run is on borrowed time. It's only a matter of time before I come in there, I kick his head off his shoulders, and I take that Resurrection World title. And there's nothing he can do. There's nothing Steven Silvestri can do. There's nothing D'Angelo LaFlame, Ronnie Brady, Anthony Steele, none of them can do. Nothing is going to stop me from taking that title and putting it around the waist that it rightfully belongs to.
If Steven Silvestri is so unpopular and his days are on borrowed time, what happens then with that role of general manager?
I think we'll go back to the old GM. We'll get GM Joey back.
But Joey was doing a good job to begin with. Maybe would that be one that I think that would Joey look back now and say that that was really a failed experiment to put a kid who's a referee and a cameraman part-time who looks like he's probably about the equivalent of a fifth grader, who looks like almost like a nerd and a geek, to be the man in charge? Don't you need somebody with authority, somebody with strength, somebody who could basically command that post and, seek fear and also instill confidence? Shouldn't that be a point that maybe a Joseph Tibbs looks back and says, you know what? Steven Silvestri was a failed experiment.
I could very much see that because personally, I loved what GM Joe was doing. I loved what Joe
we saw that. You look at the relationship with TBW that we fostered, bringing in Jimmy Controversy, working with IWA. I mean, everything seemed fine, but we gave an inexperienced kid who struggled as a referee and a cameraman, who comes across like to some as a brown noser.
The only good thing that I can say about Steven's run as general manager is he gave me the call and he brought me back in.
He brought Xavier Thorne back, and some people just won't forgive him on that.
I mean, hey, I want to see the kid succeed, but I got to see him prove it to himself first. Same with Steven. Steven got to prove that he's a good referee for me to have his back.
Well, I think Thorne has more of a little bit of a rope than Silvestri at this point. I mean, we'll see, but Mr. Tibbs wants to say before I get to closing thoughts, maybe it's time for me to take charge of the situation of Incorporated.
And maybe it is, because I'm getting sick of this Incorporated bullcrap. I liked it more when you were in charge, Joey. Come on, step back
you
up.
Say that the company grew more with Joe than it did with Silvestri. And, we're in turmoil and chaos right now with Silvestri, and we don't know where we're going. And, I mean, we'll have to find out, but Incorporated was here, and you can certainly decide for yourself. And let me ask you one more question then before final thoughts. And what do you want to say to anybody here tonight that heard your side of the story going into Saturday Night Riot?
To all the doubters, all the people who know me or don't know me, and everyone who doesn't know me, Saturday Night Riot, I'm going to give you a reason to know me. Everyone who knows me, I'm going to give you a reason to stop doubting Cameron Cage.
Very well said. Straight, simple, short, and to the point. And if you want to follow Cameron Cage, that's his Instagram. And don't follow his Instagram because he shared my video announcing him on the platform. Share it because he's on the Cameron Cage Redemption Tour, and he very well is on his way to winning the Resurrection Wrestling World Heavyweight Championship and being the last legend and joining the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame. And Dustin Alexander is certainly going to find that first, and he's going to find that on a first-hand basis when Resurrection Wrestling Saturday Night Riot is released. And you can also watch the Resurrection Elevation Show, which is on their Instagram and YouTube page, especially on YouTube. Check them out on YouTube. We're going to put that up here one more time before we sign off. I'm actually going to do it right now before we get to closing thoughts, and we're going to do it. So if you want to follow Resurrection Wrestling and watch the show, you can do that here. Hit that sub button for Resurrection. They're closing on 600 subscribers. Let's support those that support us. Resurrection Wrestling has really been, really good friends with us. We've worked so good together the past 8 or 9 months, and we've had Resurrection Wrestling Month on this platform. So many stars have come on here from Resurrection. So let's support those that support us. Resurrection Wrestling has done a great job with that. Obviously, if Jimmy Controversy likes Resurrection Wrestling, then you should like Resurrection Wrestling. Because if Jimmy Controversy likes it, knowing Jimmy Controversy doesn't endorse too many things things unless he believes in it and really tells you to go endorse it. So if Jimmy says Resurrection Wrestling is good, that means you all should be supporting and going to Resurrection Wrestling's YouTube page, watching all their shows, checking them on Instagram. Even though, yes, there we saw Incorporated, we still don't know, but go support them, and all the links below. But my friend, it looks like I could be calling you champ in the near and distant future, but until then, I'm going to pass. I think so, but we'll see. But until then, I'm going to pass the baton to you, give you some closing thoughts, and anything else you want to plug, share, or say. The floor is yours. Fire away.
I mean, like you said, subscribe to Resi on YouTube. Go get some merch on Redbubble. Go get the Cameron Cage merch. And
I gotta get Resurrection merch. You know, at this point, I own literally everybody else's merch. I think in the next couple of weeks, I gotta get the Resi shirt. At this point, I mean, I feel like I'm a total nincompoop. Yes, I do subscribe to Patreon, which does give me a pass, but
it does give you a pass.
Thank God for that. Thank you. Oof, I don't want Cameron Dustin Alexander, and I don't want to be on that list. I don't want to be on the Revenge Tour Redemption list by being on the list. I don't want to be. Remember, Chris Jericho had the list. I don't want to be on the list for Cameron Cage. But yes, seriously, go buy some merch. You know what? It's important to buy merchandise because it helps our wrestlers and it helps our company because these things don't grow on trees. They aren't free. So any way we can help our wrestlers, help our community, let's do that. Let's support our friends. Resi's always been out there supporting us. I mean, Resi has worked so well with Sportswire. So many times, all the Resi guys. Cameron's always here in the chat. Jack Spade's always here in the chat. Ronnie's always here. Joey, don't even go. Joey has always been great with us. Even Silvestri's been here. D'Angelo goes without saying. Gold Dragon, who would have been here, but we got you instead because we got the world champion coming up. We'd rather have the world champion, right? But the point is that a lot of people in the Resi locker room have been here. Let's support them. Let's buy merchandise. Let's hit sub and like buttons for them. And we're going to certainly see you here very soon when you get inducted into the Hall of Fame because you're going to win this match, what you told me tonight, even though you're not incorporated. And we're going to certainly have a ceremony, a big speech for you. You're going to tell us how it all unfolded. And I'm looking forward to seeing you very soon here on Sportswire Radio.
I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to walking into the Sportswire Hall of Fame as world champion.
I'm looking forward to it as well. And ladies and gentlemen, that's the story of Cameron Cage, who's on the Cameron Cage Redemption Tour. It's hitting Redemption Tour. My tongue is so twisted tonight after 4 hours. But the point is that Cameron Cage is on the Redemption Pro Wrestling Redemption Tour, and he's going to be wrestling Dustin Alexander for that Resurrection Pro Wrestling World Heavyweight Championship. He's going to win that championship and become the last legend out there. And not only is he going to become the last legend, he's going to become the next member of the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame because all wrestling matters. So please support Resurrection Wrestling on all of those platforms, and especially check them out on YouTube for Saturday Night Riot because that's where you're going to see the Redemption Tour hit a YouTube show near you, and especially when he wins that championship. And also, before we go, Mac 10 is here. He does want to say one more thing. You suck.
Hey, I'm not the one over here cutting my head open and using gusset plates. I'm over here trying to win world titles, not hardcore.
Well, I'm not going to argue with Mac 10 because Mac 10's been on Sportswire like 3 times in the last week, and he's probably going to, I'm sure, be here tomorrow. So I'm going to certainly say that that's between you guys. And Mac's been here enough so many times that he could probably collect rent here on Sportswire. So I'm going to leave that at that. Mac is a very, very hardcore man, a very angry and aggressive man, and I'll leave that at that. But maybe I'll see Mac tomorrow with Cato. But again, one more time, please support Resurrection. Check out Saturday Night Riot on YouTube when it airs. That's where the Cameron Cage Redemption Tour is going to hit a YouTube channel near you, and he's going to take that World Heavyweight Championship. But he does say, love you anyway. So he did say that, at least he did say, love you anyway. We all love you anyway, Cameron. We do love you. We always love you coming on. It's been a while. You picked a great time to be here. We have 100 people watching us right now. So good work. Good stuff, my friend. And my name is the Reverend Tom Bryce, your voice of all wrestling. I will be here at 7 o'clock Eastern time tomorrow with Omen Black, the boogeyman of the Midwest, the DKW Hardcore Champion, and the IMF Hardcore Champion, the DKW World Champion, and I'll be here at 10 o'clock with Cato. Atomic Titan is here right after anniversary, Sunday night, 9 o'clock Eastern time. But until then, my voice is shot, so good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. On the number one, Global Radio, to Sportswire Radio. And where do you ever get a show where you get 2 cams for the price of 1? You got that tonight with Cam and Cameron Cage, and we'll see if both men become champions. I think they will, and thank you, everybody. I'll see everybody later.